Billionaire thought his 6-year-old son was blind until a 7-year-old poor girl showed the truth and left everyone moved. Before we reveal this story, drop a like and tell us where you're watching from and something that gives you hope. The shrill sound of shattering glass echoed through the marble-floored hallway of the Harrison estate. 6-year-old Noah had bumped into yet another priceless vase, his small hands outstretched as he navigated the darkness that had been his constant companion since birth. "Noah!" Ethan Harrison rushed toward his son, his Italian leather shoes clicking against the polished floor. At 28, Ethan was the youngest tech billionaire on the Forbes list, having revolutionized medical imaging technology. The irony wasn't lost on him. He could help doctors see inside any human body with unprecedented clarity, yet he couldn't help his own son see the world. "I'm sorry, Daddy," Noah whispered, his vacant blue eyes staring somewhere past Ethan's shoulder. "I thought I remembered where it was." Ethan scooped up his son, careful to avoid the glass shards. "It's okay, buddy. Just a vase. I've got plenty." He forced lightness into his voice, though the weight on his chest felt unbearable. 3 specialists this month alone, and always the same verdict. Optic nerve hyperplasia, untreatable. Noah would never see. Since Miranda's death during childbirth, it had been just the 2 of them in this massive Hamptons estate, along with a rotating staff of nannies, housekeepers, and Noah's vision specialists. Ethan had thrown his billions at the problem: experimental treatments, stem cell research, private specialists flown in from around the world. Nothing worked. "Mr. Harrison," called Mrs. Winters, the current nanny. "Noah's scheduled for his piano lesson in 10 minutes. "I'll take him," Ethan said, still holding his son. These moments were too rare. Board meetings, investor calls, and research funding consumed his days. Guilt was his constant companion, second only to grief. In the music room, Ms. Abernathy waited at the grand piano. Noah's fingers found the keys with practiced precision. Music had become his world. What he couldn't see, he could hear, feel, create. "Remarkable spatial awareness," Dr. Leibowitz had commented during their last appointment. "His other senses are extraordinarily developed. Sometimes the brain compensates in fascinating ways." As Noah played a simple melody, Ethan's phone buzzed. Another crisis at Harrison Medical Technologies, demanding his attention. Another moment with his son interrupted. "I have to take this, buddy. Mrs. Winters will stay with you." Noah nodded, fingers never leaving the keys, as though anchored to the one thing that made sense in his dark world. Back in his home office, Ethan stared at quarterly projections while his mind drifted to tomorrow's appointment. Yet another specialist, this one from Switzerland with a new theory about neural stimulation. Hope had become a dangerous thing, rising and crashing in endless cycles. Outside, autumn leaves swirled across the manicured lawn of the Harrison estate, unseen by the little boy who continued to play, his music flowing through the empty corridors of a house that had everything money could buy, except what mattered most. "Mr. Harrison?" His assistant's voice came through the intercom. "The board is waiting." Ethan sighed, straightening his tie. "Tell them I'll be there in 5 minutes." He glanced at the framed photo on his desk, Miranda holding newborn Noah in the hospital, hours before the hemorrhage that took her life. "I'm trying," he whispered to her smiling face. "God knows I'm trying." Outside, the October wind picked up, carrying with it the scent of change, as a single mother and her 7-year-old daughter were moving into the groundskeeper's cottage at the edge of the vast Harrison property, unaware they were about to change everything. The old groundskeeper's cottage sat at the edge of the Harrison estate, a humble contrast to the mansion visible through the trees. Inside, Ruby Miller arranged mismatched plates in the kitchen cupboard, while her 7-year-old daughter, Lily, explored every corner of what would be their new home. "Mommy, there's a tree perfect for climbing right outside my window," Lily exclaimed, her curly red hair bouncing with excitement. "And I think I saw a boy in the big house. Can I go say hello?" Ruby smiled at her daughter's enthusiasm. At 32, single motherhood hadn't been her plan, but Lily made every struggle worthwhile. After losing her nursing job in Pittsburgh when the hospital downsized, this position as the Harrison Estate's live-in health aide for young Noah had been a miracle. Good pay, housing included, and a fresh start. "Not today, sweetheart. We need to get settled first. You'll meet Noah tomorrow when I start work." Ruby tucked a strand of hair behind Lily's ear. "Remember what I told you? Noah is blind, so he'll need extra patience." Lily nodded solemnly. "I remember. I won't make him feel different." The next morning, Ruby walked Lily to the waiting school bus before heading to the main house. The autumn air was crisp, leaves crunching beneath their feet as they followed the stone path. "Be good today," Ruby called as Lily bounded up the bus steps. "I'll pick you up at the corner at 3. Inside the mansion, Ruby felt immediately out of place. The marble floors gleamed, and original artwork hung on walls tall enough to make her dizzy. Mrs. Winters, the departing nanny, gave a hurried orientation. "Mr. Harrison is rarely home before 8. Noah has piano at 10, lunch at noon, rest time from 1 to 2, then physical therapy exercises. All medications are in this cabinet. He takes the anticonvulsants twice daily." Mrs. Winters handed over a thick binder. "Everything's documented here. Emergency contacts, specialists, dietary restrictions." Ruby's nursing training kicked in as she reviewed the medications. "Has he had seizures recently?" "Not in months. The medication seems to control them, but Mr. Harrison insists on continuing preventative treatment." Mrs. Winters checked her watch. "Noah should be waking up soon. His room is upstairs, first door on the right." Ruby found Noah sitting on the edge of his bed, already dressed, but with his shirt buttoned incorrectly. His blonde hair was neatly combed, and his blue eyes stared vacantly ahead. "Good morning, Noah. I'm Ruby, your new health aide." Noah tilted his head slightly. "You smell like cinnamon," Ruby smiled. "That's my perfume. I'm impressed you noticed." "I notice everything except what things look like," Noah replied matter-of-factly. "Are you going to fix my buttons? Mrs. Winters always does." "Would you like to try fixing them yourself? I can guide your fingers." Noah's face registered surprise, then determination. With Ruby's gentle guidance, he rebuttoned his shirt correctly. "I did it." His smile lit up his whole face. "You certainly did. Now, how about breakfast?" Throughout the day, Ruby observed Noah carefully. His spatial awareness was remarkable for someone who couldn't see. He navigated familiar spaces with confidence, trailing his fingers along walls and furniture. During his piano lesson, his talent was undeniable as his small fingers danced across the keys. When Ethan Harrison called to say he wouldn't make it home for dinner, Ruby noticed the disappointment that flashed across Noah's face, despite his practiced, "It's okay, Daddy." That evening, as promised, Lily came to the main house after finishing her homework. Noah was initially shy, hiding behind Ruby's legs, when Lily introduced herself. "I'm Lily. I'm 7 and I live in the cottage with my mom now. Do you want to be friends?" Noah hesitated. "I can't play normal games. I can't see." Lily considered this for only a moment. "That's okay. We can play games that don't need eyes, like storytelling or music. Mom says you play piano." As the children cautiously began to interact, Ruby watched with growing curiosity. Noah's responses to visual stimuli sometimes seemed inconsistent with complete blindness. When Lily dropped her bright yellow hairband, Noah's head turned slightly toward the sound, but also toward the splash of color. Ruby made a mental note to review his medical records more thoroughly. Something about Noah's condition didn't quite fit the diagnosis she'd been given, but that would have to wait. For now, she smiled, watching the tentative beginning of what might become a beautiful friendship. Lily arrived at the Harrison mansion after school, clutching her backpack tightly. Inside was her most prized possession, a special flashlight her father had given her before he was deployed overseas 3 years ago. He'd never returned, killed in action when Lily was just 4, but she kept the tactical flashlight as her most cherished connection to him. "Can I show Noah my treasure today?" she asked her mother as they walked through the garden toward the main house. Ruby hesitated. "Remember, bright lights might not mean much to Noah, sweetie." "Oh, but Daddy always said his flashlight could find anything lost in the dark," Lily insisted, with the pure logic of childhood. "Maybe it can find Noah's sight." Ruby's heart ached at her daughter's innocent hope. "All right, but be gentle, okay? Noah's eyes are sensitive." Inside, they found Noah alone in the music room, his fingers tracing the keys without pressing them, as if memorizing their position. The room was dim as usual. Bright lights supposedly caused Noah discomfort, according to his file. "Hi, Noah," Lily called. "I brought something amazing to show you." Noah turned toward her voice, his vacant blue eyes staring slightly above her head. "How can you show me anything, Lily? I can't see, remember?" "Maybe you can. My daddy's flashlight is magic," Lily explained, pulling out the black metal flashlight with its adjustable beam. "It finds lost things." Ruby watched from the doorway, about to intervene, when she noticed something odd. As Lily switched on the flashlight and waved it around the room, Noah's head moved subtly, following something. Following the light. "I can feel warmth," Noah said, reaching his hand toward the beam when Lily accidentally shined it on his arm. "Where is it now?" "Here!" Lily moved the beam to the wall, then the ceiling. Ruby's nursing instincts kicked into high gear. Noah's eyes weren't tracking perfectly, but they were responding somehow. She stepped forward. "Lily, shine the light directly at me." Lily complied, and Ruby watched Noah carefully. His eyes shifted slightly toward the direction of the light. "Noah," Ruby asked gently, "can you point to where you think the warm feeling is coming from?" Noah pointed, not perfectly, but in the general direction of the flashlight. Ruby's mind raced through possibilities. Optic nerve hypoplasia wouldn't allow for light perception this specific. Something wasn't adding up. "Let me try something," Ruby said, taking the flashlight from Lily. "Noah, I'm going to shine this very gently near your eyes, not directly in them. Tell me if you feel anything, okay?" Noah nodded, nervous but trusting. Ruby dimmed the light to its lowest setting and shined it at an angle toward Noah's face. The boy blinked rapidly. "It's brighter," he whispered, sounding surprised. "The warm feeling is stronger." "Can you see it?" Ruby asked carefully. "See?" Noah seemed confused by the question. "I don't know what seeing is." An incredible possibility began forming in Ruby's mind. What if Noah had some vision but had never learned to interpret what his eyes were telling him? What if he'd been told for so long that he was blind that he didn't recognize visual input for what it was? "Lily, stay with Noah for a minute. I need to check something," Ruby said, hurrying to retrieve Noah's medical file. Flipping through the thick binder, she found the original diagnosis from when Noah was an infant: severe visual impairment of undetermined origin, possible optic nerve hypoplasia. Not definitive. Subsequent evaluations simply repeated the initial diagnosis without further testing. Most concerning were notes about Noah's photosensitivity and discomfort in bright environments, symptoms that could have multiple interpretations. Ruby returned to find Lily showing Noah how to hold the flashlight. "Noah, have doctors ever shown you lights like this before?" Ruby asked. Noah shook his head. "They always keep it dark. Daddy says bright lights hurt my eyes." Ruby made a decision. She needed to speak with Ethan Harrison immediately, but she didn't want to give him false hope. She needed more evidence. "Lily, Noah, let's play a game," she suggested. "I'm going to place some of Noah's toys around the room in different spots. Lily will shine the light on them. and Noah will tell us if he notices anything different." As they played, Ruby's suspicions grew stronger. Noah couldn't identify objects, but he consistently noticed changes in the light when Lily shined the flashlight on different colored toys. He had some form of light perception, possibly much more. That evening, when Ethan Harrison finally returned home, Ruby was waiting, her heart pounding with equal parts excitement and trepidation. What she was about to suggest might change everything for Noah and his father, or it might crush Ethan's hopes all over again. "Mr. Harrison," she said as he walked through the door, "I need to discuss something important about Noah's condition." Ethan's tired face immediately tensed with concern. "Has something happened?" "Not exactly," Ruby replied carefully, "but I believe there's a possibility that Noah may not be completely blind after all." Ethan Harrison's face hardened as Ruby explained her observations. The sleek conference room adjacent to his home office, normally reserved for business meetings, now held just the two of them across a vast mahogany table. "Ms. Miller," he said, his voice controlled but tight, "do you understand how many specialists have examined Noah? Neurologists from Johns Hopkins, ophthalmologists from Bascom Palmer, pediatric vision experts from around the world. Are you suggesting they've all been wrong?" Ruby took a deep breath, clutching her nursing credentials that suddenly felt inadequate against the weight of Ethan's skepticism. "Not wrong, Mr. Harrison, but possibly incomplete. Medical diagnoses sometimes become self-fulfilling prophecies. If Noah has been told he's blind since infancy—" "Because he is blind," Ethan interrupted, running a hand through his dark hair. "We've done electroretinography, visual evoked potentials, MRIs, every test available." "When was the last comprehensive evaluation?" Ruby asked gently. Ethan hesitated. 2 years ago. The specialist said further testing would be traumatic and unnecessary. 2 years is a long time in pediatric development, Ruby pressed. And I noticed something today. When Lily, my daughter, shined her flashlight near Noah, he tracked the light. Not perfectly, but enough to suggest some level of light perception. "He's always been photosensitive," Ethan dismissed. "That's why we keep the lights dim." "Photosensitivity implies visual function," Ruby countered. "Mr. Harrison, I'm not claiming Noah can see normally, but what if his condition isn't what we think? What if it's cortical visual impairment rather than optic nerve damage?" "What's the difference?" Ethan asked, a hint of his defenses lowering. "CVI is a brain-based visual impairment. The eyes work, but the brain has difficulty processing the information. Unlike optic nerve hypoplasia, CVI can sometimes improve with the right interventions." Ruby slid a printed article across the table. "Children with CVI often have inconsistent visual responses. They might see better in some situations than others. They might respond to light, motion, or certain colors." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Ethan's face. "Noah does sometimes seem to sense things. I've dismissed it as his other senses compensating." "That might be part of it," Ruby acknowledged. "But would you allow me to try something? A simple test with different colored lights in controlled conditions. If there's no response, we've lost nothing. If there is—" "Dome, my son has been through enough disappointment," Ethan said sharply, rising from his chair. "So have I." "I understand," Ruby said, standing as well. "But ask yourself this. What if there's even a small chance Noah could gain some functional vision? Wouldn't that be worth exploring?" Ethan turned away, staring out the window at the darkening grounds. After a long moment, he spoke without turning. 2 years ago, we visited a specialist in Boston. During testing, Noah became so distressed he had a seizure. Watching him convulse on that examination table while doctors scrambled around him, he shook his head. "I promised myself I wouldn't put him through that again." "This would be different," Ruby assured him. "Just Lily's flashlight with different colored filters. In Noah's room, with his comfort items, We stop immediately if he shows any distress. Ethan finally turned back to her, his expression torn between hope and fear. One test. Controlled environment. I'll be present the entire time. Thank you, Ruby said sincerely. Tomorrow morning. Ethan nodded curtly. I'll clear my schedule. Later that night, after putting Lily to bed in their cottage, Ruby researched deep into the night. She pulled up studies on cortical visual impairment, functional vision assessments, and vision therapy protocols. The more she read, the more convinced she became that Noah's case warranted further investigation. One case study particularly caught her attention. A 5-year-old diagnosed with blindness as an infant who, through specialized therapy, developed enough functional vision to navigate familiar environments, recognize faces, and eventually learn to read large print. The key had been identifying that the child had CVI rather than optic nerve damage. Ruby finally fell asleep, surrounded by printouts, her mind swimming with possibilities. In her dreams, she saw Noah's face lighting up as he truly saw his father for the first time. Morning came too quickly. Ruby dressed carefully in professional attire rather than her usual casual work clothes. This meeting felt momentous. She woke Lily early to explain the plan. "Remember how your flashlight found some of Noah's sight yesterday?" she asked her daughter. "Today we're going to try again, but more carefully. Mr. Harrison will be watching, so it's very important that we stay calm and follow the plan exactly." Lily nodded solemnly. "Lily, I'll be super careful with Daddy's light, Mom. I promise." At the mansion, they found Ethan and Noah waiting in Noah's bedroom. Ethan looked like he hadn't slept, his expression guarded as he nodded a greeting. Noah sat on his bed, fingers nervously plucking at his blanket. "Noah," Ruby said warmly, "remember the warm feeling from Lily's flashlight yesterday? We're going to play with that again today. Is that okay?" Noah nodded hesitantly. "Is Daddy staying?" "I'm right here, buddy," Ethan assured him, sitting beside his son. "We can stop any time you want." Ruby drew the curtains while Lily carefully set out the colored filters they had prepared. Red, blue, green, and yellow cellophane sheets. "Ready?" Ruby asked, meeting Ethan's tense gaze. At his nod, she switched off the lights, plunging the room into near darkness. What happened next would change everything for the Harrison family forever. "First, let's establish a baseline," Ruby said in the darkened room, her voice calm and professional, despite her racing heart. "Noah, I'm going to ask Lily to shine her regular flashlight in different parts of the room. Just tell us if you notice anything, any warmth or change, and try to point to where you think it's coming from." Noah nodded, his small face serious in the dim light filtering through the curtains. Ethan sat rigidly beside his son, one protective arm around Noah's shoulders. Lily, understanding the importance of her role, stood very still as Ruby guided her. "Lily, shine the light on the wall first, please." The beam cut through the darkness, creating a circle of light on the blue wall. "Noah, do you notice anything?" Ruby asked. Noah tilted his head slightly. "There's something, like warmth, but not really. It's different." He pointed, his finger angled toward the wall, but not precisely at the light spot. Ruby noted his response without comment. "Good job. Lily, now the ceiling, please." As Lily moved the beam upward, Noah's head tilted back slightly. Again, he pointed, imprecisely, but definitely in the right general direction. Ethan leaned forward, his skepticism visibly wavering. "Now," Ruby said, reaching for the colored filters, "we're going to try something different. Lily will use the same light but with different colors in front of it. Tell us if anything changes or feels different." Ruby slipped the red cellophane over the flashlight. Lily aimed it at the wall again. Noah frowned. "It's different now." The feeling changed. "Can you describe how it's different?" Ruby prompted. Noah struggled, his vocabulary inadequate for sensations he'd never been taught to name. "It's angrier, No, that's not right. He rubbed his eyes. It feels hot. Ruby exchanged a meaningful glance with Ethan before switching to the blue filter. Again, the beam hit the wall. This one is cool, Noah said immediately, sounding surprised at his own reaction. Like water. With each color, Noah gave different descriptions. The green was like grass, and yellow was like sunshine. His responses weren't visual in a conventional sense, but they were consistently different for each color. Noah, Ruby said gently, I'm going to try something else now. I'm going to hold up two different colored lights side by side. Can you tell me if you notice two different feelings? With Lily's help, Ruby created two spots of light on the wall. One red, one blue. Noah's brow furrowed in concentration. Two, he said finally. The hot one and the water one. They're next to each other. Ethan made a strangled sound. For the first time, genuine hope flickered across his face. One final test, Ruby said, sensing the mounting tension. Noah, I'm going to put a color right in front of you, very close, but not shining directly in your eyes. I want you to try something new. Instead of telling us what it feels like, try to reach out and touch the color. She placed the green filter over the flashlight and held it about 2 feet in front of Noah. The green light created a soft glow. Noah hesitated, then slowly reached out. His hand wavered, searching, but then moved with increasing confidence until his fingers passed directly through the beam of colored light. I found it, he exclaimed, wonder filling his voice. I found the green. The room fell silent, except for Ethan's shuddering breath. He looked at Ruby with eyes shining with unshed tears. This isn't just light sensitivity, is it? He whispered. Ruby shook her head. I believe Noah has some functional vision, probably has had it all along. What's been diagnosed as blindness might actually be cortical visual impairment. His eyes work, at least partially, but his brain hasn't learned to process the information correctly. Ethan turned to his son, gently taking Noah's face in his hands. Noah, buddy, can you see the light? Actually see it? Noah looked confused. I don't know what see means, Daddy. I just know where things are sometimes. Is that seeing? The simplicity of the question broke something open in Ethan. A sob escaped him as he pulled Noah into a tight embrace. Yes, buddy, that's part of seeing, and we're going to help you learn the rest. Over Noah's head, Ethan mouthed thank you to Ruby, his expression transformed by the first real hope he'd allowed himself in years. Later that afternoon, while Noah napped, exhausted from the morning's emotional discoveries, Ruby sat with Ethan in his office, outlining next steps. We'll need to consult with specialists in cortical visual impairment, she explained. The approach is completely different from what you've been doing. It's not about fixing his eyes. It's about teaching his brain to use the visual information it's receiving. Ethan nodded, making notes with the focused intensity that had built his business empire. I'll have my assistant arrange appointments immediately, whatever it costs, whatever we need to do. There's something else, Ruby said hesitantly. Something important about CVI recovery. What is it? The environment matters enormously. Children with CVI often respond best to familiar settings, consistent routines, and emotional security. Ruby chose her words carefully. Noah needs stability and presence right now, not just medical intervention. Understanding dawned in Ethan's eyes. You're saying I need to be here more, actually be present for him? Ruby nodded. The brain forms new pathways more effectively in conditions of safety and low stress. Your presence is medically significant to his recovery. For the first time since she'd met him, Ethan Harrison smiled, really smiled, the expression transforming his handsome, usually stern face. Ms. Miller, you're very diplomatic, but you're right. It's time I remembered what matters most. As Ruby left his office, she found Lily waiting in the hallway, clutching her special flashlight. Did we help Noah find his seeing, Mommy? She asked. Ruby knelt down, pulling her daughter into a tight hug. "Yes, sweetheart. Your daddy's magic flashlight might have worked a real miracle today." The morning sunlight streamed through the newly opened curtains in Noah's bedroom. 3 weeks had passed since the discovery that changed everything. The once dimly lit Harrison mansion now blazed with light, color, and life. "Okay, Noah, what color am I holding up?" Dr. Melissa Chen asked, displaying a bright red card. Noah squinted, his blue eyes working hard to focus. "Red," he said after a moment. "Like fire." "Doctor," Chen smiled, making a note on her tablet. As the leading pediatric CVI specialist in the country, she'd flown in from Seattle twice weekly since Ethan Harrison had called, desperate and hopeful, all at once. "Excellent, Noah. Now these shapes are harder. Take your time." Ruby watched from the corner as Noah leaned forward, concentrating intensely on the cards. His progress had been remarkable but uneven. Some days his visual processing seemed to leap forward. Others, the frustration overwhelmed him. Today was a good day. "That's a square?" Noah guessed, uncertainty in his voice. "Close," Dr. Chen encouraged. "Look at the corners again." Noah's face scrunched in concentration. "Triangle." "Perfect!" Dr. Chen high-fived him. "You're doing amazing work, Noah." After the session, Ruby found Ethan in the garden watching Lily and Noah play a modified version of tag. Noah wore special glasses now, not to correct his vision, but to reduce visual clutter and help his brain focus on specific stimuli. The games were part of his therapy, disguised as play. "He's getting faster," Ruby observed, coming to stand beside Ethan. Less hesitant. Ethan nodded, his expression a mixture of joy and lingering disbelief. "I keep thinking I'll wake up and discover this was all a dream." He turned to Ruby, his eyes serious. "How did everyone miss this? All those specialists, all those tests." "They weren't looking for the right thing," Ruby said simply. "Once a diagnosis is established, it tends to stick. And CVI isn't widely understood, even among some vision specialists. The symptoms can mimic total blindness, especially in infants." "But you saw it," Ethan said. "You and Lily with that flashlight." Ruby smiled, watching her daughter guide Noah toward a brightly colored ball on the lawn. Sometimes it takes a fresh perspective, and Lily, well, she still believes her father's flashlight is magic. Ethan's phone rang, the 4th time that hour. He silenced it without looking. 3 weeks ago, he would have answered immediately, regardless of what moment with Noah he might miss. "The board isn't happy with my reduced schedule," he remarked, though he didn't sound particularly concerned. "My CFO has threatened to resign twice." "Any regrets?" Ruby asked. Ethan watched as Noah successfully grabbed the ball, his face lighting up with triumph. "Not a single one." Inside the mansion, transformation was everywhere. Bright, solid-colored toys lined the shelves. High-contrast tape marked doorways and stairs. Light-up pathways guided Noah through hallways. What had once been a showplace designed to impress business associates had become a functional vision therapy playground. That evening, after Lily had gone home to the cottage with a babysitter, Ruby stayed late to help Dr. Chen organize the next phase of Noah's therapy. They sat in the newly converted therapy room that had once been a formal dining room. "His progress is extraordinary," Dr. Chen commented, reviewing her notes. "Most children with CVI, this severe show improvements much more gradually." "It's all the resources," Ruby suggested. "Not many kids get this level of intervention." Dr. Chen shook her head. "I've worked with other wealthy families. Resources help, but there's something else happening here." She glanced toward the doorway where Ethan had appeared, leaning against the frame. "Mr. Harrison, your son's visual function has improved more in 3 weeks than some of my patients show in 6 months." Ethan crossed the room to examine the progress charts. "What's different?" "I have a theory," Dr. Chen said, removing her glasses. "CVI recovery is heavily influenced by emotional state. Noah's case coincides with several significant emotional changes: the increased presence of his father, the friendship with Lily, the feeling of agency in his own recovery. He's happier, more secure. The brain responds to that. Ruby watched Ethan absorb this information, noting how different he looked from the stern, distracted man she'd met a month ago. He'd cancelled business trips, rescheduled meetings around Noah's therapy, and spent hours each day actively participating in his son's visual exercises. "We need to discuss next steps," Dr. Chen continued. "I'd like to introduce limited reading preparation, large, high-contrast letters against solid backgrounds, and we should begin environmental modifications at Noah's school before he returns." Ethan nodded, but his attention had drifted to the window where Noah sat on the lawn with Lily, both children examining something in Lily's hands, probably her treasured flashlight. "They've become inseparable," Ruby remarked, following his gaze. "She's good for him," Ethan acknowledged. "More than good, she's—" He trailed off, searching for words. "Revolutionary," Ruby supplied, with a smile. "That's what my daughter calls herself now. The Vision Revolutionary." Later, after Dr. Chen had departed and Noah was tucked into bed, Ruby found Ethan in his office. Unlike previous evenings, his desk wasn't covered with papers. Instead, a single photograph sat before him, Miranda holding newborn Noah. "She would have figured it out," Ethan said without looking up. "Miranda was studying to be a pediatric occupational therapist when we met. She would have seen what the doctors missed." Ruby remained silent, sensing he needed to speak. "After she died, I thought the most important thing I could give Noah was access to specialists, treatments, opportunities. I threw money at the problem because that's what I know how to do." He finally looked up, his eyes red-rimmed. "But what he needed most was the one thing I wasn't giving him, my presence, my full attention." "You're giving it now," Ruby said gently. "That's what matters." Ethan nodded slowly. "I had a video conference with the board today. I'm stepping back from day-to-day operations. My COO will take over while I focus on Noah's recovery." "That's a big change," Ruby observed. "The company will survive," Ethan said with newfound certainty. "And so will we." As Ruby walked back to her cottage that night, she reflected on how quickly life could change. 4 weeks ago, she'd been desperate, jobless, worried about how she would provide for Lily. Now she was central to what might be one of the most remarkable vision recovery cases in medical literature. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Noah would have good days and bad progress and setbacks, but something fundamental had shifted. Hope had entered the Harrison household, brought by a little girl with a flashlight who believed in magic and saw possibility where others saw only limitations. Ruby looked up at the stars, brighter here away from the city lights. Noah might see them one day. The thought filled her with quiet joy as she walked toward home, toward Lily, toward whatever tomorrow might bring. 3 months after the discovery of Noah's cortical visual impairment, the Harrison estate buzzed with activity. Therapists, specialists, and educators came and went daily, all focused on the remarkable 6-year-old boy who was learning to see the world for the first time. "Look, Daddy, I can read it!" Noah exclaimed, tracing his finger beneath the large, high-contrast letters of his new picture book. Each page featured a single letter against a solid background, a revolutionary approach for children with CVI. Ethan beamed with pride, recording the moment on his phone. These videos had become precious documentation of Noah's progress, a visual journal of miracles unfolding daily. "Doctor, Chen says he's ready for 2 letters per page next week," Ruby informed Ethan as she prepared Noah's afternoon medications. "His visual discrimination is improving faster than anyone expected." The Harrison Pediatric Vision Foundation, established just weeks after Noah's breakthrough, was already funding research and treatment for children with similar conditions. What had begun as a personal journey had quickly expanded into Ethan's new mission. "The gala fundraiser is confirmed for next month," Ethan mentioned, scrolling through emails on his tablet. "We've already got commitments from major donors. This could fund the research center for years." Ruby nodded, though privately she worried about the pace Ethan was setting. He'd traded corporate ambition for philanthropic fervor, still working relentlessly, just with a different focus. Outside, Lily waited for Noah to finish his session. At 7, she had become surprisingly protective of her friend, refusing to let other children at school tease him about his special glasses or occasional missteps. "You're Noah's guardian angel," Ethan had told her once, only half joking. "No, just his friend," Lily had replied with characteristic directness. "Angels aren't real, friends are." That afternoon, as autumn leaves carpeted the estate grounds, Ruby watched the children playing from the kitchen window. Noah wore his outdoor glasses, specialized lenses that reduced visual clutter and enhanced contrast. His movements were more confident now, though still hesitant on uneven terrain. "He needs more outdoor experience," Dr. Chen had advised. "Natural environments are challenging for CVI patients, too much visual information to process at once. But it's essential for building real-world skills." Ruby's phone chimed with a text from her sister. "Saw the article about your miracle child in People magazine. Famous now, huh?" The media attention had been unexpected and unwelcome. Last week, photographers had appeared at the gates, hoping to capture images of the billionaire's miracle son and the little girl who restored his sight. Ethan had responded with increased security and a brief, carefully worded press release requesting privacy. As Ruby watched Noah and Lily collecting bright red and yellow leaves, she couldn't help wondering what the future held. Her contract as Noah's health aide would end eventually. Would she and Lily return to their modest life in Pittsburgh? The thought created an unexpected ache in her chest. "Mommy!" Lily called, running toward the house with Noah following carefully behind. "We found a baby bird. It fell from its nest." In their cupped hands lay a tiny, featherless creature, its miniature heart visibly pulsing through translucent skin. "I saw it first," Noah announced proudly. "I actually saw it move." Ruby met Ethan's gaze over the children's heads. Another milestone, another small miracle. The bird might not survive, but in this moment, that wasn't what mattered. What mattered was that Noah had seen it fall. The Harrison Pediatric Vision Foundation Gala transformed the mansion's grounds into a wonderland of lights and color. Crystal chandeliers hung from oak trees, casting prismatic rainbows across the lawn. Every element had been designed with CVI awareness in mind. High contrast, limited patterns, strategic lighting. "It's beautiful," Ruby murmured, feeling distinctly out of place in her borrowed gown. Ethan had insisted she attend as Noah's care coordinator, not staff. The black dress she wore had arrived that morning in a box with a simple note: "For everything you've done for us. E." Inside the massive tent, celebrities mingled with medical researchers and wealthy donors. Dr. Chen was demonstrating CVI simulation glasses, allowing guests to experience Noah's visual challenges firsthand. The silent auction featured items donated by famous supporters: a guitar signed by Bruce Springsteen, a private cooking lesson with Gordon Ramsay, artworks from renowned painters. "They're talking about raising $8 million tonight," whispered Ashley, Ethan's event coordinator. "Maybe more." Ruby nodded, scanning the crowd for Noah. She found him in a quiet corner with Lily, both children dressed in their finest attire, showing a younger child how to use a special light-up toy designed for vision therapy. "Even here they're inseparable," Ethan remarked, appearing beside Ruby with 2 champagne flutes. He handed her one, his fingers brushing hers momentarily. "Noah refuses to attend any function without his vision revolutionary." Ruby smiled, watching the children. "Lily feels the same. She turned down a birthday party invitation last weekend because it conflicted with Noah's therapy session." They stood in comfortable silence, sipping champagne and observing the glittering crowd. In the 3 months since Ruby had started working with Noah, something had shifted between her and Ethan, a gradual warming, a quiet understanding, perhaps even friendship. "I never properly thanked you," Ethan said suddenly. "You've thanked me many times," Ruby assured him, "and the Foundation's work will help countless children." Ethan shook his head. "Not for Noah's vision, for making me see what I was missing." He hesitated. "Before you and Lily came into our lives, I was blind too, focused on everything except what mattered most." Before Ruby could respond, Dr. Chen approached with an elderly gentleman in tow. "Mr. Harrison, this is Dr. Samuel Whitman from Johns Hopkins. He's interested in collaborating on the new research center." As Ethan was pulled away into conversation, Ruby felt a tug on her dress. Lily stood there, her expression troubled. "Mom, Noah's getting tired. His eyes hurt, but he doesn't want to tell his dad because of the party." Ruby immediately located Noah, noticing the telltale signs of visual fatigue, the squinting, the tension in his small shoulders. CVI therapy was making remarkable progress, but it came with costs. Noah's brain worked overtime processing visual information, leading to exhaustion and occasional headaches. She crossed to him quickly, kneeling to his level. "Tough night, buddy?" Noah nodded miserably. "Everything's getting blurry and jumpy, but Daddy's party is important." "You're more important," Ruby assured him, sending Lily to find Ethan. When he arrived moments later, Ethan didn't hesitate. The billionaire who once couldn't miss a board meeting for his son now immediately escorted Noah upstairs, away from the $100 million potential of the gala. As Ruby watched them go, she realized something that both thrilled and terrified her. She was falling in love with both of them, the man who had learned to see what truly mattered, and the boy who was teaching everyone around him the real meaning of vision. Winter descended on the Harrison estate, transforming the grounds into a snow-covered wonderland. 6 months had passed since the discovery that changed everything. Noah, now 7 after a birthday celebration that had made the local news, was preparing for his return to school after the holiday break. "Are you sure he's ready?" Ethan asked Dr. Chen during their weekly assessment meeting. "We could continue with private tutoring for another semester." Dr. Chen shook her head firmly. "Noah needs real-world visual challenges and peer socialization. The school has implemented all our recommended accommodations. His IEP is comprehensive. It's time." Ruby agreed, though she understood Ethan's hesitation. Noah's progress had been remarkable but uneven. He could now recognize most letters and simple words, identify basic shapes and colors with near-perfect accuracy, and navigate familiar environments with confidence. But new locations still overwhelmed him, and his depth perception remained problematic. "The Preston Academy has an exceptional special education department," Ruby reminded Ethan, "and they've agreed to let Lily transfer mid-year to be in Noah's class." This final point seemed to ease Ethan's concern. The children's friendship had only deepened over the months, evolving into something that amazed the adults around them. Lily had intuitively developed ways to help Noah process visual information, describing scenes in terms of color and movement, creating high-contrast markers for difficult-to-see objects, patiently waiting when visual fatigue set in. "They're like a unit," Dr. Chen had observed. "Lily naturally accommodates for Noah's visual gaps without making him dependent. It's extraordinary." That evening, while Noah and Lily built a snow fort outside under Mrs. Wilson's supervision, Ruby's role had evolved from health aide to vision therapy coordinator as Noah's needs changed. Ruby found Ethan in his study, reviewing school documentation. "I've been meaning to ask you something," Ethan said, setting aside the papers. "The cottage must be getting cold with these temperatures. The heating system there is ancient. Would you and Lily consider moving into the East Wing until spring? There's more than enough space, and it would be more comfortable." Ruby hesitated. The boundaries between employer and employee had already blurred considerably. This would blur them further. "I don't think that would be appropriate," she said carefully. Ethan looked surprised, then slightly embarrassed. "Of course, I didn't mean to overstep." An awkward silence fell between them, broken only when Noah and Lily burst into the room, cheeks flushed from the cold. "We built an igloo," Lily announced proudly. "Well, sort of. It fell down, but it was an igloo first." "Dad, can we have hot chocolate?" Noah asked, his blue eyes, once vacant, now bright with purpose, looking directly at his father. His visual tracking had improved remarkably, though he still sometimes had to search to find faces. "Of course," Ethan replied, visibly relieved by the interruption. "Let's all go to the kitchen." As they walked down the hallway, Noah's hand found Ruby's automatically when they approached the stairs. His depth perception still required extra caution on steps. The casual trust of the gesture made Ruby's heart ache with unexpected emotion. Later that night, after returning to the cottage with a sleepy Lily, Ruby sat at her small kitchen table, reviewing her own situation. Her contract with the Harrison family technically ended in 3 months, though Ethan had mentioned extension possibilities. The foundation had offered her a permanent position as an educational liaison for CVI families. But something else troubled her: the growing attachment all 4 of them had formed. Noah looked to her almost as a mother figure. Lily adored Ethan, who treated her with the same generosity and affection he showed Noah and Ruby and Ethan. That was the most complicated part. The attraction between them had grown, despite Ruby's attempts to maintain professional boundaries. Stolen glances, lingering conversations, the occasional brush of hands, all suggested something neither had openly acknowledged. Outside, snow continued to fall silently on the Harrison estate, covering everything in a clean white blanket. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new progress, new complications. But tonight, Ruby allowed herself to wonder about possibilities she'd never dared consider before, a future where these temporary arrangements might become something permanent. Spring arrived with a burst of color that seemed especially significant in the Harrison household. For Noah, each new bloom represented another visual challenge conquered: purple crocuses against green grass, pink cherry blossoms against blue sky, the subtle distinction between similar shades of yellow in daffodils. "Mom, look what Noah made for you," Lily exclaimed, bursting into the foundation office where Ruby now worked full-time. Noah followed more slowly, carefully carrying a painting. "It's the cottage," he explained, presenting his artwork. "Ms. Jenkins helped with the perspective, but I did all the colors myself." Ruby examined the painting with genuine admiration. The proportions were slightly off, typical for CVI, but the colors were vibrant and accurately placed. The red door, the stone path, the blue curtains visible through windows. 9 months ago, Noah couldn't distinguish between colors. Now he was painting landscapes. "It's beautiful, Noah." "I'll hang it right here," Ruby said, finding space on her crowded office wall, already filled with Noah's artistic progress. "Dad wants to know if you're coming for dinner," Noah added casually. "He's making spaghetti. Well, Mrs. Garcia is making spaghetti, but Dad's helping." These family dinners had become regular over the past months, Thursday nights and weekends, when both children were done with homework and therapy sessions. They felt dangerously domestic, like a glimpse into a life Ruby wasn't sure she should want. "We'll be there," she assured him. "Now scoot, both of you. I have 3 more parent packets to finish before 5. After the children left, Ruby returned to her work, resource guides for families of newly diagnosed CVI children. The foundation now supported dozens of families, providing educational materials, therapy equipment, and financial assistance. What had begun as one family's journey had expanded into a mission touching lives across the country. That evening, dinner at the main house was lively as always. Noah enthusiastically described his day at school. including a successful art class and a challenging gym period. His classmates had mostly adjusted to his differences, though occasional teasing still occurred. "Jason said my special glasses make me look like a bug," Noah reported matter-of-factly, but Lily told him bugs are actually really cool and important for the environment. Lily nodded solemnly. "Miss Peterson gave me a science book about insects. I'm going to show Jason the cool pictures tomorrow. Then he'll stop being mean about Noah's glasses." Ethan and Ruby exchanged amused glances over the children's heads. Lily's protective nature had evolved into skilled advocacy, deflecting potential bullying with education rather than confrontation. After dinner, while the children watched a movie in the media room, Ruby helped Ethan clear the table, despite Mrs. Garcia's protests that it was her job. "I received an interesting offer today," Ethan mentioned as they loaded the dishwasher. "Harvard Medical School wants to establish a CVI research center. They've asked me to serve as chairman of the board." "That's wonderful," Ruby said sincerely. "Will you accept?" Ethan hesitated. "It would mean dividing my time between here and Boston, weekly travel." The implication hung between them. 9 months ago, Ethan had walked away from his company to focus entirely on Noah. This would mark his first step back into the wider world. "Noah's doing well," Ruby said gently. "He has an excellent support system now. School, therapists, friends. Your foundation is changing lives. This research center could help thousands more." "And you?" Ethan asked quietly. "Would you be willing to take on more responsibility with Noah when I'm traveling?" The question seemed weighted with multiple meanings. Ruby chose her words carefully. "My contract ends next month." "I know." Ethan's eyes held hers. "That's something else we need to discuss." Before he could continue, Noah called from the media room. "Dad!" "Ruby, you're missing the best part." The moment broken, they joined the children for the remainder of the movie. But later, as Ruby and Lily walked back to their cottage under a canopy of stars, Ruby couldn't stop thinking about what Ethan might have been about to say. Was he simply offering a contract extension, a permanent position, or something more personal that had nothing to do with employment at all? The invitation arrived on thick cream cardstock with the Harvard Medical School emblem embossed in gold. "The Board of Directors requests the honor of your presence at the dedication of the Harrison Center for Pediatric Vision Research." Ruby traced the elegant lettering, remembering the day 1 year ago when she and Lily had first arrived at the Harrison estate. Jobless, nearly homeless, desperate for a fresh start. Now she directed educational programming for a national foundation, while Lily attended the prestigious Preston Academy on full scholarship. "Are we really going to Boston, Mom?" Lily asked, examining her new dress, deep purple with silver accents, chosen specifically because Noah can see purple really well now. "Yes, sweetheart. Mr. Harrison has arranged everything. Hotel rooms, transportation, even tickets to the Children's Museum for you and Noah, while the adults attend boring meetings." The Harrison private jet departed on a perfect June morning. Noah, now confidently using a tablet with specialized accessibility features, barely looked up from his game as they took off. His visual progress continued to amaze everyone, though certain challenges remained. Crowded visual environments still overwhelmed him. Reading required larger text and frequent breaks. Depth perception on stairs and unfamiliar terrain necessitated caution. But the fearful boy, who had once navigated by touch alone, now moved through the world with growing confidence, supported by specialized glasses, adaptive technology, and the unwavering friendship of a little girl who had never seen him as limited. In Boston, they were greeted by university officials and medical school faculty, eager to meet the family whose story had inspired unprecedented funding for CVI research. Camera flashes popped as they descended from the jet. the famous Harrison family, and their miracle story still generated media interest. At the hotel, adjoining luxury suites awaited them. As the children explored their rooms with excited exclamations, Ethan caught Ruby's arm gently. "There's something I need to discuss with you. Tonight, after the children are asleep?" Ruby nodded, her pulse quickening. Over the past year, their relationship had evolved in undefined ways. Professional colleagues, certainly. Friends, definitely. But something else lingered beneath the surface, acknowledged only in lingering glances and casual touches that didn't feel casual at all. The dedication ceremony the next morning was grand and emotional. Ethan's speech moved many to tears as he described Noah's journey from darkness into light and credited Ruby and Lily for changing their lives forever. "Sometimes," he said, looking directly at Ruby in the front row, "the most qualified experts in the world can miss what's right in front of them. Sometimes it takes a fresh perspective and the magic of a child's flashlight to illuminate the truth." Afterward, while the children explored the museum with their nanny, Ruby and Ethan attended research presentations from scientists whose work the foundation would fund, groundbreaking new techniques for CVI diagnosis in infants. Revolutionary therapy approaches using virtual reality, promising pharmaceutical interventions for certain types of cortical damage. "Just think," Ethan whispered during one presentation, "if we'd had these resources a year ago." "If we'd had them a year ago," Ruby whispered back, "Lily and I might never have come into your lives." That evening, after an exhausting day of events, they returned to the hotel. The children, overtired from excitement, fell asleep almost immediately. In the quiet living area of the suite, Ethan poured 2 glasses of wine and joined Ruby on the balcony overlooking Boston Harbor. The city lights reflected on the dark water, creating patterns of brightness against shadow. "Do you remember what Noah said when he first started gaining functional vision?" Ethan asked. "He said he didn't know what seeing meant." Ruby nodded. "He had the capacity all along, but no framework for understanding it. I've been thinking about that a lot lately," Ethan continued, his voice soft, "about how we can look at something every day without truly seeing it, about how quickly everything can change when we finally do." He set down his wine glass and took Ruby's hand. "My contract with you ends next week." "I know," she replied, her heart racing. "I don't want to renew it," Ethan said simply. Sunlight streamed through the windows of the Harrison estate's east wing, illuminating the breakfast table where Noah carefully poured his own orange juice, a simple task made possible by specialized cups with contrasting colors designed by the foundation. "Dad, is my tie straight?" he asked, looking up at Ethan, who stood adjusting his own tie in the reflection of a silver serving tray. "Perfect," Ethan assured him, though he stepped over to make a minor adjustment. At 8 years old, Noah insisted on dressing himself for important occasions, despite the visual challenges that made matching colors and aligning buttons difficult. "Do you think Lily's ready yet?" Noah asked anxiously. "We can't be late." "I'm sure Ruby has everything under control," Ethan replied with a smile. "They'll meet us at the courthouse." The past year had brought changes no one could have predicted on that fateful day when a little girl's flashlight revealed what countless specialists had missed. The Harrison Pediatric Vision Foundation now operated in 3 countries. Noah attended regular classes at Preston Academy with minimal accommodations. Ethan split his time between foundation work and a new medical technology company focused on adaptive devices for visually impaired children. And today, 2 years after Ruby and Lily had first arrived at the Harrison estate, they would officially become family. "Dad?" Noah asked, suddenly serious. "After today, will Lily be my sister for real?" "Yes, buddy, for real and forever." "And Ruby will be my mum, even though I remember my first mum from pictures." Ethan knelt beside his son, meeting his gaze directly, something Noah had once been unable to do. "Your first mom will always be your mom." Ruby isn't replacing her. She's just adding more love to our family. Is that okay with you? Noah nodded solemnly. More than okay. I've been practicing calling her Mom in my head. At the courthouse, Ruby and Lily waited on the stone steps. Lily wore a yellow dress that stood out vividly against the grey building, a colour chosen specifically because it was one of the first Noah had learned to identify consistently. "There they are," Lily called, waving excitedly. As they approached, Ruby felt the familiar surge of emotion that still surprised her after all this time. From reluctant employer to friend to partner, Ethan had transformed alongside his son. The stern, distant billionaire had become a devoted father, passionate advocate, and, most surprisingly, a man capable of profound love and partnership. Inside, the judge smiled at the unusual family before her. The case had generated attention. The billionaire, the nurse, the children who had brought them together through an extraordinary medical journey. But today wasn't about headlines or medical breakthroughs. Today was about making permanent what had grown naturally over 2 years of shared challenges, discoveries, and joy. "Noah James Harrison," the judge said, "are you happy to have Ruby Miller become your legal mother through this adoption?" "Yes, ma'am," Noah replied clearly, his eyes, once believed sightless, focusing directly on the judge. "Very happy." "Dick and Lily Marie Miller, are you happy to have Ethan Harrison become your legal father and to take the Harrison name?" Lily nodded vigorously. "I've been practicing writing Lily Harrison for weeks." The adults laughed, and the judge continued with the legal formalities. When the final papers were signed and the declarations made, she smiled at the family before her. "By the power vested in me by the state of New York, I hereby declare these adoptions final, and these families joined as one." Outside the courthouse, photographers captured the moment as Ethan lifted Lily into his arms while Ruby embraced Noah. The story had become something of a modern fairy tale. The billionaire whose world was transformed by a health aid and her daughter with a magic flashlight. That evening, at the celebration dinner in their home, Ethan raised his glass in a toast. "To vision," he said simply. "Not just the ability to see with our eyes, but to see with our hearts." 2 years ago, we were all blind in different ways. A little girl with a flashlight showed us the truth, that sometimes the light we need is right in front of us, waiting to be discovered. As night fell, Noah and Lily released paper lanterns into the dark sky, spots of brightness rising higher and higher until they joined the stars. Standing between Ethan and Ruby, Noah watched the lights ascend with perfect clarity, his world illuminated by both vision and love, his future bright with possibilities once thought impossible. The darkness had not defeated them. The light had won.